Right, good morning everyone. Oh, that did it. Right, and welcome. Just a couple of things to start with. Uh, the usual ones, fire exits you can see, that's easy. Um, has everyone registered? Anyone not registered down there? Okay, if you could do that, that'd be good. Thanks, Olaf. The second thing is, if you want lunch here, then we're going to pass the list that was over the back. The menus are there. Just choose it, and you'll see. Right, call sign, what you want. We'll pass that in, and it will be available in just over an hour's time when we stop. But if you haven't done it, then your only other options are go hungry or walk down the road and buy something in there. That's that. So register lunch. Is there anyone here who hasn't yet bought a raffle ticket? Come on, that's shame. Yeah, Pauline will get you. Martin Lynch and Moonraker, BHI. Unfortunately, RSGB have promised us some books, but they haven't arrived, so we can't do anything with those this time. We'll do something at the RSGB convention. And a few of the members, particularly David, G3GNs, had a bit of a clear out, put some stuff out there. We'll do the normal thing. We will pre-draw the prizes of the top three. Hello, I seem to. Am I losing it? Am I losing it? Why did I say that? Right, let's go on to the AGM. So, no, I'll just cover the programme for the day. Just this has obviously been out for a while. So we'll do the AGM, trophies. Trophies, the recipients aren't here, so we'll just run through them and just recognise them. And then we have our usual sort of open session for what anyone would want to discuss. We've got a couple of topics we're going to raise. After lunch, Mark is going to talk about the WRTC 2026. Then Mike is going to talk about SDRs. They're arriving around lunchtime, they're driving here. Afternoon tea and draw the raffle, you can see there. And then what we will do is the presentation from Greg, who is a real W6, in other words, he's in California. So that will be via Zoom call at quite early his time, shall we say. And then Nigel's going to talk about the impact of FT8 on the expeditions. And those who are staying for dinner, which I think is, the vast majority, those of us who ate here last night, it was a really good meal, so very hopeful for that. We're eating in this room. So around about, we'll finish at 5, and then we've got to clear all this lot away to allow them to relay for dinner. So it should all work. And I suggest we get started on the AGM. So first of all, welcome. The AGM announcement was published in the digest, so we met that criteria. We're obviously quorate. Apologies for absence. We've got quite a few apologies. I suggest, as usual, we'll just record them in the minutes rather than anything else. Now, what we've done this year, as you know, the vote has been online, so if you've already voted, please don't vote again. Because, that would be... No, I won't. His video in this, I'm not going to say what it might sound like. So the committee have proposed and seconded the motions so that they can go through, and we've had just under 200 responses online. So I guess I just put it to the vote to accept the minutes. They were published in the digest and they've been online. All those in favour of accepting last year's minutes? Any abstentions? Anyone against? Okay, that's carried. Good. So now on to my report. Well, I'm going to need my notes for this so I don't forget anything. How did that jump? So, I know you all wanted to see the accounts, didn't you? As I mentioned, it's quite interesting. When I do the write my chairman's report, I usually look at the previous year. And when I looked at last year, I was talking about lack of de-expeditions, they're just coming back because of COVID. And now here we are, when there's de-expeditions everywhere. And of course, it's helped by the sunspot cycle, which is making conditions really good. It's a really good time, I think, to be DXing. When the Pacific is just coming through, when you want it almost. So I think the expeditions clearly, and that is going to come up in Andrew's pitch, show you the ones we sponsored. They're back to pre-COVID levels, and maybe a little above, I think, and I'm quite pleased with that. The thing that's generated is quite interesting, and those of us who were at Friedrichshafen noticed, is the number of people who came up to us on the stand at Friedrichshafen, the people who'd been on them, and shook our hands, said thank you, and really grateful for the sponsorship. And I think that's quite good. And in fact, even I'll leave this out later. The ADAR 7X, which were the young guys, the Yota guys, they gave us a print of a book of some of their photography. So I'll leave that around to have a look at. And it's signed as well. And we'll gradually put some of these on our Facebook site. So I think that's really the kind of recognition that CDXC is getting. And you see it when you go to the shows that, particularly, say, Friedrichshafen, Newark, and all those. It's good. And normal communications with members, so the Reflector, Facebook, Twitter, X, and the Skype channel are all doing well. We haven't really had any problems in it. I particularly think the Skype chat channel has really come into its own as the DXpeditions have started coming up. And it's a real-time chat amongst members, and it's tremendous. It gives you the hint that you wouldn't otherwise get. Usually someone's copying them better than you are, but that's another matter. And of course that's all managed by volunteers from the club and the committee. So particularly for things like the Reflector, obviously you have to have administrators. Dave G3YMC and myself do that. For Facebook, Chris and Tim M0AFJ do it. You mainly do the Twitter X. And the Skype, I have to credit Paul at K9IR for giving us the idea and helping set it up. But again, Chris manages that. So, they do run and they're a real resource. So if you're not using them, then you really should be using them at the time. Turning to the committee, it's actually been quite a difficult year for the committee. Last year, we elected Pete G4RRM and Lee 2E0LMA to the committee, and that really turned out to be most beneficial because sadly, both Derek G4XEE and Pete G3RZP had to stand down because of ill health, and just so they're not here, obviously they can't be here, so we've done them a plaque each as recognition of their commitment to the I think we should. So obviously we wish them well, but for health reasons they couldn't continue. So that left two big gaps. Derek was managing all of our challenges, and that's no small task. Lee had started to, I guess, understudy it, and very rapidly had to take it over at the end of last year. So Lee has stepped up to do that from a standing start to manage our challenges. And I think, thanks Lee, without that, we'd have challenges that weren't adjudicated. So now, that's actually smooth. And also I should credit that when Bob MD0CCE handed over the role to Derek, he wrote a quite comprehensive list of how to do it. And that's been helpful. So we should credit both of those. Peter left an even bigger hole with the digest, which is so important to the club. So I've taken over editing that, but as you'll see in all of my bits in the digest, I really would like someone to take that off me. And we've got now G1TEX who's helping with the production, because Peter's wife used to do the production for us. So he's been helping with that, and Paul EI5DI made the fatal error of complaining to me about the quality of the pictures. So he now, and as you know, Paul has won awards for his photography, so he is now enhancing the pictures so they look better in print, and we've done that once. But I'd also like to say that there's one other member that stood up very fast. Tony, of course, G4LDL, after many years as doing the secretarial role, handed over the membership to Chris. And our database system and everything else. Chris has probably had the steepest learning curve of any committee member this year. So, and I think now it's, you've got there so quickly, so thanks for that. So I think that's probably all I really wanted to say, other than when we come to elections, you'll see there are 2 vacancies on the committee, and we really, we need one to join so that we can, just spread the load a little bit. Because I'd also say that Leah's picked up some of the events that Chris is doing as well. We need a few more people, but particularly the one that really helps an editor. So our job as a committee is try and do the right thing for the members, and at the end of the little bit here, we will step down and you can decide if you want us to keep doing it. Oh, that went quiet. Everyone steps back, don't they? Okay, so that's mine. Any questions or no? Okay. Let's move on. So, Chris, over to you.
Testing, testing, testing. Good morning. Pleased to be here. Well, 95% of me is pleased to be here. I have to be honest, there's a little 5% there that says I should be out on top of a hill this afternoon defending my win in last year's 4-metre trophy. So I'd like to, I wish I was doing that, but 95% of me is really happy to be here and presenting the membership secretary's report. It was on the documentation that came out with the calling notice, but membership between 31st of March 2023 and 31st of March this year went down by 16. There's a silver lining on that in a moment, but we lost 16 members. Net reduction. There was 47 members who allowed their membership to lapse. Sadly, a further 13 came silent key, and I'll read the names out in a moment. And the club, we recruited or welcomed back into the fold 44 new or rejoining members. So we lost 47, we gained 44. That's very satisfactory, actually. Quite good. A lot of this, the club's visibility is so important. We're visible at Friedrichshafen, we're visible at Newark, we did a little bit at Norbrecht Radio Rally, and of course we're at the RSGB convention. And this just raises the profile of CDXC, and I would ask, in your conversations with the radio clubs locally, highlight, tell them you're a member of CDXC, tell them how brilliant the magazine is, and encourage DXing in general, and keep the membership strong. I will report with regret the following members who became silent key. Ron Stone, GW3YDX, Stephen Gilbert, G30AG, Richard Limebear, G3RWL, Roger Allen, G3TQZ, Ron Wicks, GW0JEQ, you'll know a lot of these, Stuart Swain, G0 Fox Yankee X-Ray, Finn Hoffman, OZ7YY, Fred Curtis, G3SVK, John Arnvicht, OZ4RT, John Shorthouse, G4FPA, Peter Robinson, G0EYR, Bob Alfin, well-known DXer, was K4UEE, David Wood, G3YXX. The membership I reported was up to the 1st of April. Since then, and this really, we're coming into the current year, so I'll be reporting on this, if I'm re-elected, that is, in 12 months' time. But we've picked up, this says 18. It's actually 19 now, because I picked up another one on Thursday, day before yesterday. So we're back up now to a membership of 721. So membership's still pretty strong, and that's very healthy and very good. Renewals, of course, are due. We've got 115 UK members still to renew and 27 overseas members to renew. And so far we've had 10 say not renewing for various reasons. So that really concludes the Membership Secretary's report. As Chris said, I'm getting to grips at last with the system, and it seems to be working quite well. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Right, now to Andrew for the Treasurer's report.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our new venue. Is this on? Yeah. Okay. Welcome to our new venue. We'd be very interested when the convention's over to hear what you think about the venue and whether we need to make any changes or not. But putting my treasurer's hat on, it's my pleasure to present CDXC's audited accounts for the year ending 31st of March 2024, and to point out some of the highlights. So overall, our income is slightly down on the previous year, 17,034 compared to 17,589, and it's really primarily due to the reduced income from last year's CDXC convention, the annual dinner, and the raffle and donations. But subscription income has held up very well. In fact, it's slightly over last year, so that's really good. And also our investment income is up on the previous year, perhaps not surprisingly, as interest rates are better now. We have advertising income, which is a very important source of revenue for us, and we'd like to thank BHI, Martin Lynch, Nevada, and Yesu for their continued support of the CDXC advertising in the digest, and Yesu, who also support our website. So thank you to them for the income. It all helps. In terms of expenditure, it is up on the previous year. The committee, on your behalf, have spent £19,809 compared to £16,242 last year. And really reflecting what Chris was saying, this is primarily due to an increase in expenditure on the expeditions. There were also some increased costs for the CDXC convention and dinner costs, and of course printing of the digest and postal charges have increased, which of course adds to our expenditure. But we're extremely lucky in that we have very competitive postal charges, thanks to Tim Beaumont, OM0URX, who provides a wonderful service for us and gets us cut price rates. We also made a donation of £150 to DX World for their really excellent website. These are the DXpeditions. As you can see, we spent a fair amount of money, committee membership money on the DXpeditions. You'll see that there is a provision of 1,500. Of 1,500 for Bouvet, which of course didn't actually happen, but it's sitting there on our balance sheet. And when the Bouvet Peter 1 DXpedition finally sort of raises its head, we'll consider whether to reallocate that money. But at the moment, it's just sitting on our balance sheet and hasn't actually been paid to the Bouvet DXpeditions. But as you can see, quite a large number of the expeditions that have been sponsored by CDXC. Just turning now to our balance sheet. We have a prepaid item of £1,591, which reflects the amount paid for the second year of the 2-year deal we have with Wild Apricot for our administrative system. And it always pains me that we have to spend that sort of amount of money on our admin system, but it's quite difficult to find a cheaper alternative. We've also made various provisions in the accounts for subscriptions paid in advance, de-expedition pledges, an allocation for the provision of trophies this financial year, and the 2014-2015 donation towards de-expedition sponsorship that has special conditions stipulated and haven't been met for some years, which is why it's still sitting on our balance sheet. While we end the year with a slight loss, well, slight deficit of 2,775, we move forward with a fairly healthy accumulated surplus of £18,915. Given the overall financial position, the committee has decided that the subscription levels will continue at the current level this year. It should do. This is just the auditor's note, and I'd just like to thank Owen Williams, G0PHY, for auditing the accounts. And that's all I have to say on the accounts. Are there any questions? No? Good.
The reboot. Okay. I always think that bit where you say the subs are going to remain the same. You remember when you were at school and it was speech day, and at the end, the speaker used to get nudged to remember to say, "Oh, would you like another day off?" That's rather like the accounts. We need to approve the accounts. So you've seen them there. They've been on the website. They were published in the digest way back. All those in favour? Anyone against? Abstentions? Thank you. And thank you, Andrew. That is it's so good for a committee to have someone who handles the accounts in the way Andrew does. He answers the questions for us. He gives us the advice we need, and so thank you very much. Okay, so for this year's committee, that's it. We stand down, and Don is going to come and make the proposal for the new committee.
Thanks, Chris. 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, there we are. Thank you, John. Thanks, Chris. And good morning, everyone. Well, before we go on to the election of the new committee, I think perhaps we ought to take this opportunity to thank last year's committee, who I think have done a cracking job in actually some quite difficult circumstances on resourcing. So why not a round of applause for everyone on the retiring committee? Chris has already done the publicity for new committee members, particularly the editor of the digest. Chris, have you had any offers today? Should I be seeking anybody who'd like to edit the digest? Can I suggest, if you think you'd like to have an exploratory discussion with Chris, you do that afterwards, and we can manage the membership of the committee. So, with your agreement, I'm going to suggest that the whole of the committee that is standing for re-election, we elect or we consider as one block, unless anybody wants to object. So, can I ask, please, for those in favour of re-electing the committee indicated here? A show of hands, please. Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? I think that's another year's work, Chris.
Yes, Jenny's not here, so that's okay. Thank you very much, and thank you on behalf of the committee for putting your trust in us again. It is good fun on the committee. There's no doubt about it, and there's a number of people here who've been on the committee. You're welcome back if you would like to. Our first job is to approve the election of the auditor. Owen has said he will do it again next year, so all those in favour of Owen G0PHY re-electing? Against? Abstentions? No. Thank you. So we'll notify I think we already have. Just to say that the votes online carried the same motions, but there were a few abstentions, partly overseas members who weren't present. So that actually concludes the AGM. Oh, look at that, 23 minutes, pretty good. So now we've finished the formal part, but always there's a chance to have a quick discussion before lunch. There's a couple of topics that we want to raise. Oh, I nearly forgot this last year. First, we go through the awards. As I said, there's no one here to receive their trophies, so I'm just going to go through them. And these are, as you can see, last year's and into this year's for the LF. So the HF Challenge, I mean, it's quite interesting to look at. And when Lee does the write-up, he usually talks about the comparison with previous years. And if you remember on the marathon, put a spreadsheet of modes and things, it's worth looking at, even if you're not entering the challenges, because it gives you an indication of those people who are chasing the awards and how they're getting on. A new trophy which we have not organised, because remember we moved the way round that we were doing trophies, so that we have them for CW, phone and MGM for all three of our challenges now, which is to make sure that you can do your own preference and also to keep the other modes going. Otherwise, frankly, the MGM's always going to win. So Norman did that. Steve, as he said, I was glad to win it because now I'm back in G. It isn't going to happen again. And John has always been a consistent winner. Andy has done well, and because we've changed the trophies, is eligible because we have the 3-year block out. Once you've won a trophy, then you can't win that again, to make sure it doesn't always go the same way. Trevor, as we all know, very, very big DXer, and 263 through the year. That's not bad. I think that will be beaten this year, without doubt. Now on to the LF Challenge. Lionel again. Interesting, 76 confirmed in March. That's actually quite a low number for LF when you consider that normally that's done on 40 metres. Obviously, all the band awards and certificates, they've all gone. All the salvers have been sent out, which I should have mentioned right at the beginning. Andrew handles for us. So Lee does the adjudication, and Andrew looks after trophies and salvers, and Lee does certificates. And in fact, the phone was more, and of course, again, as you would expect, the MGM modes do better as we go through. So I think a round of applause for all those who've won the trophies. It's a shame they're not here. When we had the big summer socials, we usually were able to give out quite a few, and we have done in the past, but it just turns out that way. And as Andrew said, we'll get your feedback about this venue, this timing, and everything else afterwards. Okay, so now to what I was going to say. Had a question actually from someone who's here about what's happening with the centenary of the first GZL QSO, and Don is here, who knows all about it. So I'm going to hand over to Don to update us on it.
Right, me again, I'm afraid. October this year is a very significant centenary date. The first trans-global radio communication took place on the 18th of October 1924. And that was between a former schoolboy of Mill Hill School operating from the school to a station in South Island, New Zealand, and jointly with NZART, the New Zealand Society, and the RSGB, we're trying to make a bit of a noise about the centenary, because this was a very significant seismic event in the development of radio communication. Which way round does this go? It was from 2SZ, that's the way the call signs were expressed in 1923, 2SZ, G, to 4AA, Z, on the 18th of October from Shag Valley to Mill Hill, probably the most significant event in the development of our understanding of HF propagation and in the views taken in the professional world about the value of short waves. And the centenary is an opportunity to celebrate that achievement. It's worth recording that Sir Edward Appleton, who won the Nobel Prize for his work on propagation, made a very interesting statement after the event when he was looking back on the way that radio communication developed. Then a very remarkable thing happened. In October 24, the greatest distance of all was spanned when communication was established between Mr. F. Bell of New Zealand and C.W. Goyder. Thus began what I've often called the shortwave revolution. This is probably the most dramatic moment in the history of the development of shortwaves, when the greatest distance possible on this earth was bridged for the first time. So that's how Edward Appleton saw it. Looking back, that was when he was writing in a publication. There's loads of background information on the website, which is www.gb2nz.com, and that's just some of the pages on the website. I invite you to have a look at that, because one of the things that's on the website is a link to an audio recording of, not of the QSO, sadly, but of the sister of Frank Bell, who was the person in New Zealand, recounting her recollections of that day. And I defy anyone to listen to that without actually being significantly moved by some of the emotions and some of the thinking in the narration. So what are we planning? We're planning, first of all, we're working with Mill Hill School and the Goyder family over here, and we're planning a celebration at the school on the 18th, together with learning workshops that week for pupils about radio communication. We've got stations operating from Mill Hill School, G2SZ, which is the call sign now held by the cousin of Cecil Goyder. We have GB2NZ for a month around the UK, shared around a number of stations, more of that in a moment. The New Zealanders are putting up ZM100DX and ZL4AA. We will be running an award for working the special calls. Charles has offered to manage the QSLs. We've got RSGB support, and at the moment, the core team is myself and John, G4IRN, of which more in a moment, because this is the commercial. Can you help? And I'd really like some offers, if you feel able, to give some help. First of all, in the run-up period, there are still some tasks to do in terms of getting some stimulating ideas about QSL card design, certificate design, and running an operating matrix for the GB2NZ. We want to pass that around the country, and people can book in, probably on a Google Forms the page to pick up the call sign. Operating GB2NZ from your station for a day or half a day or however long you feel able to. If you're within reach of Mill Hill, can you help us with the installation of the stations at Mill Hill in the week of the 18th? And also we will need a little bit of help with operating at Mill Hill as well. And then running the award scheme after the event, responding to requests for certificates, which will be the normal PDF thing. If you feel you can help in any of those areas, please just catch me afterwards, because I think it's well worth making a good job of this. I think we have an opportunity to wave a flag saying, hey, listen, this was a real world first that still stands very tall in the history of radio communication. And the more you read about the stuff on the GB2NZ website, I think you'd probably agree with those thoughts. So that's it. That's all I have to say. If you feel you can help, just please come and have a chat afterwards. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Don.
Don, what frequency was it done on?
Do you want the mic? The question was, what frequency was it done on?
The interesting thing for me was it was done according to reports, on 95 metres, which is about 3.2 metres, which, as we all know, is grey line propagation to the between UK and New Zealand. The other interesting thing for me is the transmitter was a one-valve transmitter, CW of course. The receiver was a two-valve receiver, and the QSO lasted for 75 minutes. Now go do that today on the grey line.
Where is Mill Hill is the question.
Mill Hill is in the north, pretty much North London. It's Hendon probably would be a good local point. Hendon or Finchley, you know, is a sort of useful reference point. Sorry, I should have asked whether there are any questions. Yes, but Mike. Look at the website, but essentially...
the question was, what were the antennas?
Yeah, I'm sorry, beg your pardon, I should be repeating these questions. What were the antennas? The Shag Hill in New Zealand was a 95-foot wooden tower. That's an interesting way to get a good tower, isn't it? 95 feet. We think it was a vertical. We think it was a vertical because there's no sign of a second tower, you know. Mill Hill had two large flagpoles on top of their science block with a a 5-wire parallel top and a cage feed down to ground level with a counterpoise. So not spectacular at Mill Hill by any means, but of course in those days they didn't have some of the EMC challenges that we have with local noise in the urban area. And one of the reasons that John IRN is working with me on the project is we are going to use a significant amount of remote from Mill Hill because the noise levels there now, if we're going to repeat an 80-metre grey line contact at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning from Mill Hill, I'm not sure we would do it with the transmitters actually in Mill Hill. So we're going to have the operating position there, but use John's station up country. Any other questions? Yes, Dave.
Can I get a copy of the slides so I can show them a couple of them?
Of course. I can mail them to you, Dave. That's probably the easiest thing, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
The anniversary event, what bands and modes are you proposing?
The anniversary... Come on, this is real-time planning. No, we're not quite there yet. But I mean, GB2NZ everywhere. You know, everywhere we can put GB2NZ. G2SZ, we will try to recreate the grey line contacts on 80. Other than that, I think the focus will be largely on New Zealand. So we will be going 80, 40, 20, probably as far as 15, because I think the propagation on 15 to ZL in October should be quite good. Even 10 possibly. But we will be seeking to work as 2SZ is only going to be on the air for a few days, so that week. So we will be trying to spread it around as much as possible. We will be running at least 2 stations in parallel, one remote and one local in Mill Hill. And we'll just see how it goes, you know. So it'll be all over the place. And the award system, details of which are on the website. You get points for contacting GB2NZ. You got a lot more points for contacting G2SZ. And if you contact both G2SZ and the ZL4AA on 80 meters, you get, I think it's on 80 meters, you get a super number of points, and there are tiers of awards. So it's all been incentivized a bit. Beg your pardon, I will repeat the questions. Them. Thank you for reminding me, John. Mike. Will GB2NZ be a single station license? No, it will be a club license, so it can be paralleled. Okay, so people can, somebody could take sideband and somebody could take CW the same day.
But not multi-station on single mode.
No two CW stations on the same band. That is my understanding at the moment. We're still having, shall we say, an interesting discussion with Ofcom, but I think it'll be all right on the day.
Don, have you considered, sorry, I've got a mic. Have you considered mailing up, having some sort of mail so you can push mail out to people who show an interest? So
what-
register on your website, and then you will push mail.
I have already put notes out on the reflectors, and I've had a number of people come back to me and offer, which has been very helpful. I haven't actually put up a Google Forms for registering, which is an interesting idea, Chris, and that may well be worth doing. We're putting out a press release next week, I think it is, to the amateur radio press. The general public press release will be much later, but the amateur radio press will be going out now to catch some of the lead times in the publications and that sort of thing. Any other points? Because I'm taking too much time out of Chris's session.
No, it's okay.
Okay, I think we're there. Thanks very much indeed. And as I say, please, if you can help, come and see me afterwards.
Thanks, Don. So, a couple of other things back to club. One of the problems we've had for a long time is getting new badges. And those who bought the badges right at the beginning, you'll know that they've faded away. Pete, G4RRM, has sourced a badge. He and I have just got the first ones, a new badge, which we can order in one-off quantities. Problem with the last one is we had to get 10 together. That was fine in the beginning, but once people started getting badges, in fact, there's one member who's ordered one and been waiting about 3 years, maybe 4. So we will have this set up. It's only just happened. In fact, I got mine this morning. They're going to be about £9 plus postage for a one-off. We're looking at whether we can batch them. Maybe we'll get a slightly better deal, but essentially, you know, it's going to be £9 plus postage. The old ones were £10, so similar price. And, you know, have a look, they're nice. The other thing Peter's done is for every DXpedition we sponsor, we offer them a flag. Now, though we haven't got one hanging up, the old flags were big, and you'll see, actually you can see some of them over there where they hold them up on the DXpeditions. So we've still got some more of those, but we've actually got a better one, a smaller one that we're going to hand to the expeditions. And I can't, John IRN isn't here, is he? He said he's coming. So anyway, he's going to take one of these for his island trip to, someone remind me. Flannan, thank you. So thanks for doing that, Pete. It's one of those jobs that, you know, these come from Italy, don't they? Or did you get them locally? The last ones came from Italy. Yeah, same place. So we order these from Italy. I mean, it's you'd think it was easy, but it isn't. So that's why, you know, the idea is part of that promotion thing that we do. So thanks very much, Pete. New badges. We'll put it on the website, because one thing we have to control, if we can, is to make sure you are a member when you buy a badge. I mean, I shouldn't think many people will buy a badge if they're not a member, and we know some members who've left the club and have still got their badge. So it's not that, but if we put it up there, we might find that, you know, someone else starts bulk buying them. Oh, and there's what they look like. So they're quite thin and metallic, but they're good. And hopefully they're durable. The other ones, I mean, when did we do them, Gordon? 2008. Yeah, I was going to say, they've lasted well when you consider. Most people have lost them before they've worn out, but, you know, but the idea that we can get them is good. I wanted to say just to catch back onto something Andrew raised about CMIS, the CDXC membership information system, and that covers our website that could do with an overhaul because it's not very user friendly at the moment, and the membership database, and it's completely linked. So the poll set up for the voting, this event is all done through that, and you book on that through the website. Everything is integrated. And we went to this in 2009, and since then the price has almost doubled. So it now represents, well, roughly £2 of every membership goes to run this. And they keep giving us price increases, and sometimes that price increase will be 20%. We get a slight discount by buying 2 years at a time, but it isn't much. GMDX and FOC, after we did it, they follow this as well. The three of us have been trying to find an alternative that will link it all together. The system Wild Apricot if you look at the reviews, always comes out on top. And it does everything we want. It does a lot of things we don't need, but it does everything we want, but it is £2 per member. If anyone, we've got one more year of membership before we decide. And the question is, can we find something else? Before we go and look for that, we need to write down what we want, not what the system does, and see if there's something out there. So if anyone has expertise in looking at that, which is basically interviewing the committee and saying, how do you use it, why do you use it? We can do it ourselves, but it's much better if someone else can do that. So if anyone has that expertise, could you give us a hand to do that? We may not find an alternative, and then next year we'll have to be, I can't remember what they're saying next year, but it's...
It'll be another 10% probably.
Yeah, it's probably 10%, because it went up this year, but of course we'd already forward bought. So another 10%, and it keeps going up. If we could halve that cost, that's 1 or 2 more de-expeditions we can fund. And that's the thing. So, you know, anything, if someone's got some expertise of just helping us write basically a requirements document, and then we can go and match that as to what's out there. There are quite a few other systems out there, but what we don't want to do is go and look at them and say, well, that will do it. We need to, first of all, baseline what we do, and the interconnectivity is the important bit for us. I would say, by the way, we have to have something, because as volunteers, you know, I mean, Nigel will know, back in the past we used Access Database and, you know, just did our own websites. And of course, if you run a website, you have to watch for the hits on it. You have to have something that's managed. So we're going to pay for it. It's just that basically it's a continued year-on-year price increases that's bothering us. Okay, so that ends what the committee wanted to bring to you and other things. Anyone got anything else? We've got a few minutes if we want. Yes, or I'll repeat the questions, but it's easier if the mic goes around. Right, okay, David got that first, and then Martin. David.
Yeah, I'd just like to know how the Facebook is going on. I'm not on Facebook currently. I took myself off a few years ago, but I'm wondering if I ought to get back onto it, because there may be things which I'm missing. Go ahead.
Do you want to answer that, Chris? Chris manages the Facebook site. It's a personal choice whether you go on Facebook, of course, entirely. But if we had, yes, here we go.
So,
Chris.
I report to the committee each month on the number of people using Facebook. I was hoping to be able to put my finger on that quickly, but I can't. Okay, what you're seeing now, the Facebook group is a private group, so only CDXC members can get to it. That's a post that I put up when we announced that we were going to be sponsoring 3D2Z to Rotuma. It was just, nobody's commented, but a few people, it's reached 72 members, and about 5 people have sort of liked it. Chris put that up on the 29th of June, bit of a group picture of our stand at Friedrichshafen. I won't go through it all. Chris Colclough, he's not here today, but he also put the picture of the stand. Pauline and I were still building it then. What do you call the trio of G3 S's? There you go.
That had a few comments.
What do you call the trio of G3 S's? And then a bit of an advert. So that's the stuff that's on the club's Facebook site. That was
Working Andy.
oh, Andy's there. Yeah, CQ yeah. 5Z4VJ. Oh no, BCG worked him.
Oh, it wasn't you.
Anyway, that's the sort of Facebook. But I would emphasise it's private. Non-members can't see it. You've got to be on it. And if you do create a Facebook account, you can lock them down quite tightly. You don't have to show anything to the public. You don't have to even have friends. You just connect, apply to join the Facebook group. It's more popular these days with, dare I say, our generation. I'm afraid the youngsters are going on to other things now, and
Yeah.
but Facebook, I mean, I quite like it.
I think the big plus of it, as you'll see there, is uploading pictures to it. The Reflector isn't very good at that because you've then got to go and log in and all the things on it. Facebook is made for that, for just putting the pictures up with a short caption of various things that are going. If you look at it, and you know, so we can put these things up. It's another membership communication process. So, but I think Chris's suggestion is right, which is go onto it, lock it down, just choose CDXC and anyone else you want as a member, as a friend rather, as a group, and then play around. If you don't like it, close the account. Okay?
Chris,
Martin, oh sorry, go on.
does it carry any time-sensitive DX-related information?
Right, the question is, does it carry any time-sensitive DX information? The answer is no. No, it's not. I mean, generally the Skype chat's doing that. There's been the odd bit, but it's not. Same with the Reflector. The Reflector is less now of time-sensitive.
There
Particularly
is
the people.
the Skype chat and the Skype spotting. On the right is the chat conversation, and, and on the left is the spotting information. You'll see on the spots, this is the Skype thing. On the spots, there's only been 2 today. Both of them were K8R. And on the chat, well, it's going now. Look, Lee's typing. Oh, hello, AGM.
Lee's sitting at the
Lee's
back
at
if you're not certain.
Yeah, the chat's quite active, but believe me, the chat when there's a de-expedition around and you're trying to work them, the real time of the chat is fantastic. It's got me, you know, where have you called? Well, I called him 7 up or 3 up or whatever it was, and you get in there where he was last listened. It really helps you helps me work the DX.
But I think the other thing that comes out, if you look at this when there isn't DX, I mean, there's one here, you probably can't all read this, but it's talking about antenna 30 meters here, UK S7 noise down from S9 when they've rolled out fiber. You get those little sort of nuggets in. And Mike, who's sitting at the back here, is quite a prolific poster with things that he's doing with, you know, using wire antennas, and you know, I can do that.
Just remind everybody that when Jamie was at Guyana, he was on that chat telling us where
Yeah.
to call.
So when the point that's just made is that when Jamie was on 8R7X, so Jamie M0 SDV, he was actually live on the chat. And so he was saying, I'm listening here, I'm listening there. So yeah, good point.
That got me 10 meters FM with them as well.
Yes. Right, who's next? We have Martin.
Just a very, am I on?
Yep, you're on.
Just a very simple question regarding the membership badges. I think perhaps the reason I lost my original one is because of the magnetic. Are the new ones magnetic or are they a pin?
They are magnetic.
Oh, okay. Hopefully they'll be fine.
And we know one of our members who's got a pacemaker was told not to wear it on this side because it upsets the reading. Anything else generally? I mean, obviously we're here all day, so there's plenty of time to catch any of the members of the committee. The only, oh, sorry, Nick behind you, Nick G3RWF. You're on.
It's on, right. This may be controversial, no harm in that. Looking at support for de-expeditions, I probably wasn't alone in gasping at looking at costs being contemplated for Bouvet, for example, to return. I mean, looking at where we've supported them, there seems to be quite a good balance. I'm just saying I hope that as an organisation we're seeking to gain a balance, because it seems to me that the future of DXing is very much dependent upon not the very rarest, but actually keeping topped up with the ones that are relatively unusual, but for newcomers, you know, they're what they want. So I think
Yes.
there's a problem with our American colleagues, I think, in terms of the value of the dollar.
Yes, it's a really good point, and in fact, we were talking about it at committee because the 3D2 is an interesting one because, as you know, it's got a focus on youngsters. So Jamie is going, and I can't remember the DL call sign that's going as well. But, so that's good, and that's why we were generous with 8R7X, which isn't that rare, but it was 4 youngsters, all under the age of 30, and they did a fabulous job. So we do take all the factors into account. We've got the general guidelines. Earlier this year, I changed the request format to ask just a few more questions. It went on to Google Forms, so it was a bit easier for us to analyse. So we get all the basic facts, and then we look at what we know. We look back as to when it's been activated, which modes, whether we think it's going to succeed as the expedition. And we do all that lot before we decide on the cost of what we're going to sponsor. We look back at what we sponsored previously. I've got it going back to when I joined the committee in whatever it was, 2000 and, I don't know, or maybe it was 18 something. It seems a long time ago. Anyway, so I've got the whole spreadsheet of what we've done over the time. There are difficulty things, like if you're, Bouvet, Ken was telling me at Friedrichshafen, his next attempt is a boat with a helicopter, so he can get on and off the island, or maybe, and also not going to use ribs, but use different boats to get on and off. And that pushes the cost off, but he's actually got quite a lot of sponsorship already. So we look at all those factors and affordability to them as well as us. Going back to 3D2Z, you're probably aware that they are going to use the rigs in a box, which is the talk we're having this afternoon, because Greg is one of that team. And they're going to have up to 40 remote youngsters operating remotely into that rib. Now, we kind of kick that around as a sort of, technology is great. Are these youngsters really learning what it's like to be on a de-expedition? And one of the questions that's going to be interesting to Greg is, which modes are they going to do? Because anyone who's been on a de-expedition, whether you're there or operating remotely, when a CW or a sideband pile-up hits you, you've got to learn sometime, but these people need to know how to operate. I think if they're doing MGM or FT8 as it will be, I think that could be quite a bit easier for them. They might be, they're helped by the system that does it for them. So it was quite a controversial one, but in the end, the thought of supporting youngsters to get the excitement of a de-expedition and then find their way to go on it was the balance that did it. So we gave more than we would normally have done to that. So, it is a balance. What I might do actually, about, I think 10 years ago, I wrote something in the digest about our process. Maybe I'll revisit that. Yeah, maybe I'll revisit that. But we do take care of people coming back in. And one of the things, quick plug for Club Log again, is it's quite surprising how things move up and down the list. Because you would think some of these would, they'd be in the sort of, 100 plus, but they're not. They're below 100. If you get up to 150 most wanted, once you go beyond that, really need to be exceptional, because that usually means there's a resident or 3 there, so you can make that QSO why you're doing a de-expedition there. And of course, we always look for the holiday ones and go, we're not paying for your holiday. That answer it? Okay, anything else? Okay, well, it's actually 2 minutes to 12. So excellent timing, thank you very much. And just to go on, so we will start back here at 1:30. I'm not sure where they're delivering sandwiches, are you? But it will be sometime in, probably over there. So pick up your sandwiches, and obviously don't forget to pay for them, or whatever it is you've ordered. And then this looks like on cue, doesn't it? That's fine, that's fine. We're just saying, we'll a few more minutes, thank you. So obviously that's all going to be laid out there. Back in here at 1:30. It looks pretty nice out in the garden as well to go and eat out there. And then we'll start on the afternoon programme. If you feel you would like to buy some more raffle tickets, please do. And the raffle prizes are on the back there. And again, we'll draw that. We'll do the usual one and then draw the final ones then. Okay, thank you very much.